A while ago, I have reviewed ANDYCINE LunchBox, and if you're unfamiliar, it is a CNC aluminum enclosure that allows you to put an SATA SSD inside there, and you can use this in place of an Atomos Master Caddy with Atomos Recorder. I find this a useful device, and ANDYCINE have now launched the accessory that goes along with this really well, and that is the LunchBox SATA to USB Type-C. Let's find out what I think about this. This is ArtIsRight. Before we start, subscribe if you're new and hit on the bell icon so you'll be notified every time I upload cool new videos like this. For those of you unfamiliar with ANDYCINE LunchBox, it is an aluminum CNC enclosure for SATA drive. This is used as an alternative to the Atomos Master Caddy. When you buy an Atomos device, they generally come with the Master Caddy, and this allows you to put in 2.5-inch SSDs and use it with your Atomos recorder. The only issue is that if you have a smaller Atomos recorder, for example the Ninja 5, when you try to use this, this will protrude out from the side of the device. Your hand may grab onto it, a wire might latch onto these things, and it could damage the SSD, although it's pretty much secure in there. As an alternative to this Master Caddy solution, you can buy a better built, for example Angelbird, and there are a few other companies that makes these type of caddy as well. You can put it in and it lines up flush with it, but the only downside to these Angelbirds in general and all these other ones is that because they are built specifically for this purpose, they can be fairly pricey. Enter in the LunchBox, which is pretty much a aluminum CNC kit that you can put it together by just throwing in an SATA on the inside. Now, if you have SATA laying around, that's great. I'm not going to give you a full review of this, but if you don't, you can always get an SATA from a Samsung T5 or something like that. And this would go onto the Atomos Ninja 5 like so, or any other Atomos recorder that takes these type of Master Caddy. When you want to pull out, the M3 screws make it super easy. So ANDYCINE have just released the other accessory to this, which I think is a great companion to it, and it is the LunchBox SATA to USB Type-C connection. For this, it's just pretty much a aluminum SATA to USB Type-C connection. Is really well built. On one end, you have the SATA connection that will work with any kind of SSD. It will work the LunchBox, it will work with the Angelbird, it will work with the Master Caddy. And if you have just bare SSD laying around, you can plug it in on there, and it will also work with spinning hard drive that are 2.5 inches, and I have tested this out already. Beyond that, on the other end, there is a USB Type-C connection and a SATA slide on the back. You would simply just plug it in like so, or with any other drive, just link it up like that, and you're ready to go. There are a few aesthetic things that I noticed. However, this does not impede the function of the connector in any way at all, and that has to do with the anodized aluminum. The red on the LunchBox SATA to USB Type-C is a little bit lighter, and the base is a little bit darker. If you pay attention to those details, this is something that you're going to notice right away. Other than that, it doesn't come with a USB-C cable, which I think would eliminate a lot of problem, because if you're trying to use a USB Type-C connection that is for charging the device only, you may only get USB 2.0 speed. It will still work with this LunchBox, however, you're not going to get the full potential from it. The best thing that you can do when you're searching for a cable online is to look for a cable that can do at least 5, if not 10 gigabits per second, and also one that can carry display signal up to 4K. Generally, those cables are going to work with this device just fine without any issues. And the other alternative that you can use is a Thunderbolt 3 or Thunderbolt 4 cable, which is backwards compatible to USB Type-C, and you'll get the full speed from them. For this test, I'll be using a Thunderbolt 3 cable, and this is the one that I already have in my studio. So what I'll simply do is plug in the USB Type-C, and I'll plug the other end in on the computer. And generally what I would do is flip this side up so we can see the status indicator light. Now, the one thing that I found out is that depending on the cable that you use, the device may not show up right away on the computer. What you would simply do is have to just flip the cable around and kind of reseat it a little bit, see if that works a little bit better to just link up the device. In my testing, I found out a few things. When you try to link this up to the computer and plug all the cables in, sometimes it doesn't recognize the device right away. What you have to do is unplug it and replug it back in, either at the device end or at the computer end, to get it to recognize. I don't think that this problem is unique to ANDYCINE. In my testing for many the NVMe to USB Type-C connection, I found that the issue tends to be the same regardless of cable. And I think a lot of those has to do with chipset and firmware and so forth, not so much with just the specific device itself. But once it recognized on the computer, you can simply go in, browse the file. Simply, I have nothing on there right now. And what I am going to do is launch Blackmagic disk speed test. I'll run a 5 GB file size stress test, and I'll select the target drive. I'll start a test right now, and what I'm getting from this device, this is formatted as an exFAT that works really well on the Atomos devices. I'm getting around 400 megabytes per second write, and also around 360 read. This is not running HFS Plus, so this makes sense that you're not going to get the full 5 gigabits per second bandwidth that's close to 500 megabytes per second out of these devices or connection in general. The other thing that to note is the SSD that you use on the inside. For instance, this is not a Samsung SSD. This is a Lite-On SSD. It's 500 gigabytes, and it is a fairly smaller size SSD, so it's not going to be the fastest one. But ultimately, I think the speed that you're seeing on the screen right now is definitely respectable and can be used with this device just fine. So if you're looking for a SATA connection to USB Type-C, I think this is a good solution. Granted, it doesn't come with the cable. There are other solutions that have the cable built in, so it's just one of those things that you have to weigh the pros and cons of it. But I think this goes along with the LunchBox really well, especially if you have that. And it also works with, for example, the Master Caddy and also a traditional 2.5-inch hard drive that are bus power as well. Anyway, I hope that you find this review helpful. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below, give us a like, subscribe, and hit on the bell to renew. And remember, in art we trust.